everybody, and welcome into Last Call. Nathaniel Finch, that's Caden Colford. We've got a loaded show today, plenty of guests coming up. We've got so much on the docket, and hey, I think there's a pretty big sporting event yesterday. We're going to cover that. That's the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about UINDY with the men and women's basketball teams. They were on the road this weekend. We'll talk about that plenty. But how about we start here with the Super Bowl, Caden? Your initial thoughts from what ended up being a great game.
Man, I wasn't the happiest with the outcome, but you can't be more satisfied with the action. Like we said, it was a shootout from both teams. Two high-power offenses showing why they're the two best in the league.
Chiefs ended up winning that one, and man, it was just such a great game. Went down to the wire, 38-35, the final score. And that man, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs get their second Super Bowl win in, 4 years? It's been a pretty impressive run for this team. And you know, Andy Reid, there was talks of him retiring. He says, I think I'll stick around. I think it's a good idea. Stick around when you got Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback.
Exactly, and in the midst of his prime, too, playing on a hurt ankle, you can't ask for more. We saw him limping going into the half, which was a scary sight for all football fans. But to see him come out in the second half and dominate the way they did, scored on all of their drives second half.
Isn't that wild that, you know, he went down with that ankle injury, was forced out of the game, and, you know, just looked like he was in so much pain. Luckily for them, they punted, and they didn't have to bring in Chad Henne at all. But when you come in and he's under that much pain, he has to go just stand on the sideline in pain and then go to the locker room in pain and limp around. Then he comes out and puts on the performance he does. That's, I mean, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have had plenty of great comeback stories. I'd say that's the greatest.
A complete team effort, too. You saw Kadarius Toney. I mean, he had one heck of a fourth quarter. I mean, Travis Kelce played solid the entire game. Really just a team effort around him. But we can't go without noting the guy on the other side, Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's a historic performance.
That was wild. I mean, he 304 passing yards, a touchdown, 3 rushing touchdowns. He's a shoo-in for MVP if they win this game without a doubt. In fact, you know, I was considering whether he should have been MVP regardless of the outcome if it wasn't for Mahomes' superhero performance in that second half. He was so good. And how about this? You've got 3 certainties in life, Caden Colford: death, taxes, and Jalen Hurts picking up these quarterback sneaks. It is unfair. And then even this, like, it's not just running it up the middle. He can do everything with his legs. The dude squats 600 pounds. He's the strongest quarterback in the NFL, I think, and he shows it there. Look at that.
Man, Eagles are a team full of weapons, and they use all of them so well. Devontae Smith opened the game up on fire. A.J. Brown was pretty consistent all the way through, and I mean, it was really just the defense there on that last drive. They caught a call there that some people weren't too happy about, understandably so, but hey, I mean, even he said in the locker room that he thought it was a hold and wanted to get away with it.
Yeah, James Bradbury there openly admitted that, you know, all right, I tugged on his jersey. I was hoping nobody noticed. And, you know, a lot of people say that it was controversial. I think the refs made the right call. And even, I mean, they come through after, and you see all the videos after the Super Bowl. People are still saying that it's the right call as far as, you know, league officials and everything. They made the right call here.
I think so, too. Maybe just seemed a little anticlimactic, but, I mean, action-packed all the way throughout. Can't complain. And, of course, Andy Reid, this guy, he's almost up there with Bill Belichick in terms of football knowledge, in terms of execution. I mean, he's getting it done.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. You couldn't have asked for a better game either, right? Like 38-35 came down to the wire. It was just a delight to watch. And, you know, you go into halftime, it's 24-14. Mahomes, is he going to come back? What's going on with the Chiefs? Their offense kind of sputtering. They had 2 defensive touchdowns from Nick Bolton, and it just seemed like, you know, it's the Eagles' game to win. But that second half, it's as good of a Super Bowl as we've seen in a couple years.
Can't ask for more. I mean, on both sides of the ball, Chiefs got it done. And how about Jalen Hurts? It was really just a drop. You got to think, what if he didn't just drop that ball?
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes had a similar fumble against the Chiefs, or against the Bengals a couple weeks ago, and it's just so weird. You just drop the ball and been trying to switch hands, and he just lets go of it. There's the touchdown. They had, you know, it was kind of a fluky play, and you're right. I mean, if it didn't happen, what would have happened? But it did, and the Chiefs did a great job capitalizing, and Mahomes said, all right, enough of this defense scoring. Let me go out there and take over.
Then you saw the Kelce brothers after the game.
That's pretty sweet.
I mean, those guys have such a bond. You could see them talking to each other, all the emotion that both of them had. I mean, Jason Kelce, of course, had a Super Bowl earlier in his career, and this was Travis Kelce's another ring to his. So,
yeah, I liked, you see what they said after the game. He went up and, you know, yelled something that we can't say on TV and said, all right, congratulations, I get it. I'll give you enough. I thought it was pretty cool seeing that interaction. First time that couple brothers have played each other in the Super Bowl.
And Andy Reid also beating his former team, I mean, in a pretty convincing fashion to end it right there. I mean, had the kicker burying one as time went down. Just smart football, too.
And, you know, if I would have told you Jalen Hurts is going to have 300-plus passing yards, he's going to have, I mean, he had, nearly 100 rushing yards, something pretty high. He'll have 4 total touchdowns. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith both going to be near 100 yards, if not at it, and a touchdown. Like, you'd think that this Eagles team would have ran away with it, but it was just something else. This Chiefs team, they're here to stay for sure.
Another name to throw in there for the Eagles, Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert, when they really needed Dallas Goedert, he was there. He was there, the one making the play on the sideline. He had that one catch against his helmet that they went to review and didn't overturn. He caught that ball. I mean, great plays by him all throughout.
I was pretty happy that he made that catch. They went to review. They thought about overturning it. I might have had a little bit of a healthy bet on his over, and that put him over, and he didn't get another catch the rest of the game. So that was I was pretty happy with that. But, I mean, it was just it was a lot of fun to watch. And, reality starts to sink in. Caden, we're not going to have NFL football for another handful of months.
But if I had to guess, these Eagles are going to be back. These Eagles are definitely going to be back. Jalen Hurts, I said it last show, I think that he submits himself as elite, as a superstar in this league. I think he did just that, even though he came up a little short.
What a season, for both quarterbacks, though. You've got Mahomes, wins league MVP. It was announced over the weekend. You win Super Bowl MVP. You get the ring again. Was it the second time he's done all 3 of those? And then, for Hurts, leading the league in quarterback rushing touchdowns, and I think he broke the record for most, including postseason. It was such a great season for both these two guys. It's the future of the NFL. Hurts a little bit younger, but it's the future of the NFL.
For sure. One thing about Patrick Mahomes, it's so hard being a fan and rooting against Patrick Mahomes because he's such a good, solid guy. And then on the football field, it seems like he's under pressure almost every play, and somehow it's not like he's the fastest guy on the field, especially even with a hurt ankle, but his pocket presence is unmatched in the league. He just gets away from defenders so easily.
And, you say he's not the fastest guy, but you remember that scramble late in that second half on his bum ankle. He had the high ankle sprain a couple weeks ago, was nursing it, 1 tackle hurt, and he had to go to the locker room, this whole thing. But then he comes out, and he just outruns guys for 20-something yards, picks up a huge first down, and, the big reason why they won that game. He's just something else. He's the best this league has. And maybe by the time he's done, it could be the best the league will ever have. That's
a discussion that a lot of people are having. I think it's a little too early to have that conversation, but hey, I mean, he's definitely making a case for it. He's on his way there, right? I mean, a big game like this with an injury, I mean, what more can you say about this guy? He's a stud. I mean, he wanted it. You could tell both of these teams. It was fight. It was grit from the get-go.
Yeah, because, if Mahomes is fully healthy and he goes in there and just cuts up the defense and wins the game, that's like, all right, that's Mahomes. But the fact that he did this in the entire playoffs, the championship game last week, the divisional round, all this that he did was overcoming this obstacle. And, if that's not a lesson, in perseverance in sports, I don't know what is. That was pretty impressive.
I mean, that's what's going on the ESPN 30 for 30, right? That's what they're going to look back on when they look back on Patrick Mahomes' career. It's going to be his ankle game. They're going to call it the ankle game. He came back on painkillers and everything.
With an S. He had 3 of them.
I mean, he was.
I mean, just the fact that he came back and won that Jaguars game is astonishing. And then the fact that he was able to, spend a week on a high ankle sprain and beat the Bengals, astonishing. And then the fact that he went down because he re-aggravated on that tackle and still came back in the second half and balled the way he did, he's something else. He's built different.
Now you got me wanting the 30 for 30 on Patrick Mahomes. I'm excited for it. It might take 20 years, depending how long he plays in this league. If he's anything like Tom Brady, we're going to see him around for a while, and I hope we do. I mean, amazing talent, him and Hurts.
I'll tell you what do you think about the future of the next few years? The Chiefs, obviously they're built for success. You trade away Tyreek Hill, you find just as much success without him. What does the outlook look for both these two teams?
For both these two teams, I mean, Eagles, young core, they're only going to get better if they keep adding to that, or they keep their best offensive line in the league. I mean, that was really the unit that pushed their run game forward through the entire season. For the Chiefs, I mean, Patrick Mahomes shows that he can work with whatever you give him. And you accompany that with Andy Reid's system. He's working with whatever he has. Such a good coach. He's so smart. He works with his personnel, and the connections in that program are just as good.
To bring this back home to Indianapolis, it's not official, but Shane Steichen reportedly is going to be the next head coach of the Colts. Granted, we had the same situation a couple years ago. Josh McDaniels going to be the head coach, and he turns the plane around, goes back to New England. So it's not official. We're not going to say it is, but say that Steichen does end up being the next head coach for Indianapolis, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. You like that hire?
I do. I like this play calling last night. It was aggressive. And that's putting it mildly. It was aggressive. I mean, he was playing 4 downs almost through the entire game, no matter where they were, on the field. And I think Indy needs a little bit of that aggressiveness, I should say, a little bit of swagger on their team. But of course, we might want to look to address that quarterback scenario first.
And I think the appeal here for Steichen is that he's worked so well with Hurts. He's also worked with Justin Herbert and Phillip Rivers. But for Hurts specifically, you got the mobile quarterback. They build the system around him. He's doing great. You think that, you pick Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, one of these mobile guys in the top of the draft, that you really want Steichen to be able to kind of learn with him and the two of these guys move forward.
I think C.J. Stroud's a good option. The thing about these mobile guys is you can always develop their skills as a passer, but you can't teach athleticism. So you have a guy like Jalen Hurts. You have guys like C.J. Stroud that can move out of the pocket and create plays. You put some weapons around him, that's a dangerous team.
Our NFL guy on last call, his name is Sam Gailey. We're going to talk to him next. We'll also talk to him, throughout the offseason because unfortunately the NFL season is over. We got to come to terms with that. We're not going to have good football for a while. We'll have XFL and USFL, but we're not going to have NFL for a while. We'll talk to Sam next, though, and plenty more here on Last Call.
Award-winning news coverage. Brought to you by ethical journalists that care about you. We have you covered on crime, latest on sports, and the best in entertainment. This is UINDY TV News.
Daniel Finch, Caden Colford. Now Sam Gailey joins us. Sam, what a game. We talked to you last week. We got the preview of the game. Did it go the way you thought?
Yes,
no, it
I
did not.
expect.
Don't lie to us.
A couple things went right for me, and a couple things didn't. Obviously, my Philadelphia money line didn't go the way I wanted it to. But if you throw in a factor like Jalen Hurts not fumbling that football in that drive, could he have scored points there? Could have the outcome change just a little bit, or the last holding call.
Let's take a look at what you said last week. You thought it would be the Eagles to win the game. That did not happen, but you said Devonta Smith going over. He had 100 yards. You got it. You said Pacheco receiving.
My theory for the Pacheco over the 15 is 3 games. The last game before this, Pacheco 5 receptions for 59 yards. They ran the screen game. They ran it effectively, got those linemen out in front, and were able to advance the ball using Pacheco's speed. Obviously, he displayed it last night. He went 15 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown, which I had a touchdown in my parlay for him. So, over 50 points, that's easy. And then Travis
Kelce touchdown easy. So you did a great job, just a couple blemishes here. If you parlayed this together, obviously it's a loss, so you kind of wish you would have kept that Pacheco one out. But, everything else, you were pretty close as far as expecting offense. I think that's what everyone expected, right? All the offense. As far as, all the bets you placed, how do you make out?
You were talking about Dallas Goedert earlier. His over was 38 yards. I thought that was a steal. Yeah. I thought he was going to get 2 easy catches, probably for 10 yards each. That'll put you in the 25 range. And then, it's always risky because one drop ball could be the difference between either, I wouldn't say making money or just coming 2 yards close.
I got you.
It's in between. The other person I did take over on was Juju Smith-Schuster. I took him over 38. It was a gamble. I know I talked to you before game, and you had a couple questions about what I was thinking here.
You were asking me about MVS. Did I talk you off the ledge, or did you end up placing that? I said that there's no way.
I did two parlays, and then I did one in DraftKings as well. But the ones I did in FanDuel, one I put MVS, which he ended up not even seeing the field. I think he ran 60% of the routes.
He was there plenty.
I think he was on like 16, 25% of the routes. I can't get that percentage number.
It was rough.
But for this game, it was really entertaining. Fun game to watch with your friends. I enjoyed the offense. Everyone's there for the offense.
Yeah.
And I would like to apologize for Jalen Hurts. That was my fault last week.
As soon as we turned off the cameras in last week's show, Sam was here pounding the table that Jalen Hurts is not going to throw the ball. He can't throw the ball. He can't do this. He's only a running quarterback. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. He did great on the ground, but 300 passing yards and a passing touchdown, he had a good day. You're right.
He did everything.
Yeah, I appreciate the apology, Sam.
No. I thought it was going to be flipped around, so I thought Mahomes was going to look at like a over 292. I think that was over under for Mahomes.
You make some money yesterday?
Yeah, I made a decent amount.
What'd you get?
Like 216, I think.
All right.
It wasn't a bad day.
Sounds
That's
decent.
not a
That
bad
sounds
day.
It
on the
wasn't a
Super
bad
Bowl.
day here at
Not
last
bad.
call, but I mean, I don't know
All right.
what you guys made.
Sam, who wins the Super Bowl next year?
I think it's the Eagles are going to be back. I think it's
Eagles
going to
are
be
gonna
Eagles,
be back.
Bengals, Eagles, Bills.
All right.
I don't see a.
We'll save the
better-
receipts. We'll show it in a year from now. Sam, thanks for joining us. We've got
No,
plenty
my pleasure.
more on the show. Giselle Valentine's going to come on next, and we're going to talk about some UINDY basketball. I can't wait for that. Right here on Last Call. Caden Colford. Now we've got Giselle Valentine. Giselle, you made a long trek over the weekend going out to Missouri. It was obviously UINDY. They played at Rockhurst, men and women's team on Thursday, and then William Jewell on Saturday. A fun weekend. How'd it go?
Oh, it was such a fun weekend. I had the pleasure of going with Graham Shear, who's in the control room right now, and it was just such a fun trip. The guys and both the girls' team, they were so nice to us. We got to travel on both their buses, got to talk with Coach Casaro and Mitchell, and they're just so positive people.
You got a good game for the women's. We'll start with this women's team. In overtime, they ended up losing by 2. That was 77-75 on Thursday at Rockhurst. But then, this game we have on the screen right now against William Jewell, another close game. And, the Greyhounds able to pull this one away, 59-55. What were your thoughts on how the team looked?
Yes, so definitely that Rockhurst game, that was exciting. That was my first radio play-by-play, and it went to overtime, so that was a huge deal.
How'd that go? Aside from the game itself, how was your play-by-play? What'd you think?
It is very hard for radio compared to TV. I love doing it for TV, but I also love doing it for radio.
Yeah.
You get to be more creative per se. But that William Jewell game, that was kind of a little bit worrisome for Greyhound fans, I would say, because William Jewell was on an 11-game losing streak ahead
It's
of
a
that
game you should have
and
won
it
by
looked,
a lot more than 4, huh?
yeah, it looked like William Jewell was actually going to escape with that win. 3 players from UIND scored in double figures: Sadie Hill, Liv Becker, and Lauren With. I think they really had big performances there, but if I'm going to be honest, the fatigue started to kick in for the girls' team. And definitely Mark Mitchell down on the sideline, he was kind of yelling at the girls. He's getting a little bit frustrated as well. He actually got teed up in Rockhurst. He got charged with the technical foul, and so did Jada Patton on the bench as well. So that game was pretty chippy as well.
Well, as far as this women's team, what does the outlook look like for the rest of the season? Obviously, in the home stretch, we've got 2 games this upcoming weekend, Thursday and Saturday. Well, both of those on UIND TV. But this women's team, they look pretty good, don't they?
They do, and what I love about this women's team, especially like Mark Mitchell, he loves to switch up this lineup. I think all girls are stellar on the floor. I really love seeing some key players off the bench like Ortiz and Mullins. This has just been such a fun team, and they do have a challenge on Thursday against Drury.
2 similar scores for the men's team at Rockhurst, 67-60, and then at William Jewell, 64-60. They completed the regular season sweep of William Jewell, but more importantly, they exercised that demon of Rockhurst. So Quincy, Rockhurst, their only 2 losses on the year. They beat them both in back-to-back games. This men's team, they looked. They've looked really good on this winning streak, but it wasn't the game that we were used to for them, right?
Yeah, and as I mentioned for the women's team, I also think the fatigue is starting to hit the men's team. Now 16 consecutive wins.
Yeah.
That is such a huge deal, such a huge accomplishment for this UIND program. But you can tell it's starting to kick in a little bit, but thankfully they were able to escape with the win. I really want to give a shout out to Kendrick Choa, becoming the 45th Greyhound in program history. We just recently congratulated Jesse Beacom. Now it's Kendrick Choa, and it's like the 3rd player in these past 2 years. And it was just great, because every time I do a game with Kendrick Choa, it's always like another milestone. And I guess that's my most improved player of this year for the Greyhounds.
Yeah, pretty impressive there that, he got to the 1,000-point mark. He's right around the 600 rebound mark. Did he end up breaking that over the weekend? I know he was 18 going into the game.
I believe he might have. want to make sure.
So he's one of the best scorers, you know, in this recent program history, and he's definitely one of the best rebounders. Continues to run up the leaderboard. It's been a lot of fun watching Kendrick Cho and watching this men's team. You know, they're the top of the league right now, number 7 in the nation. The outlook for them's got to be pretty positive, right?
Oh man, it's going to be super positive, especially coming into these last couple 2 home games.
Yep.
They're definitely going to walk away with those W's for sure.
Well, I'm being told in my ear 5 rebounds away from hitting that 600, so can't wait to see that. That'll happen. If not on Thursday, on Saturday. You can watch that on UINDY TV on YouTube on the GLVC Sports Network. We'll be on the broadcast for that. Some great games coming up this weekend. Can't wait to do that. Giselle, thanks for the UINDY talk. We're going to step aside. We're going to bring Giselle on to talk with Chuck Foster about some NBA stuff. Trade deadline came up last week. Should be exciting. That's next on Last Call.
Hey, it's Giselle here on 88.7 WICR.
88.7 The Diamond, the only jazz and classical station in Indianapolis, completely led by the students of the University of Indianapolis. Listen to us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn app, FM radio, HD radios, or even on our website at wicronline.org, a different kind of public radio.
Award-winning news coverage. Brought to you by ethical journalists that care about you. We have you covered on crime, latest on sports, and the best in entertainment. This is UINDY TV News.
Welcome back to the Last Call. Some new faces here. Giselle Valentina, I'm joined alongside
Charles Foster.
And man, oh man, Charles, when I tell you, literally my phone blew up this entire weekend. So many trade deadlines happening and so much. And we're going to kick things off with Indiana's team, the Indiana Pacers. So Indiana, they've been 12th in the Eastern Conference so far. They're on a 4-game losing streak. You would think they would make a big move heading into Thursday, but they kind of surprised us all wrong, Charles.
Oh, absolutely. I was expecting someone like Duarte or just any big move to happen, and nothing really did happen. They got Jordan Nwora, which I think he will be a solid pickup. He's lengthy. He's going to be able to play the 3 and the 4 for them, and when he has minutes, he has good production. But the main issue is that they still don't have very much on that Pacers team. With Tyrese Halliburton, he's a playmaker, and they don't have a lot of scoring there. So I think that they should have gone for a scorer, even if it was just a pure scorer, to at least make the offense work a little bit better.
Like you mentioned, like Jordan Nwora, he is like a power forward. He's a solid player. Only played 38 games for Milwaukee this season, averaging about 6 points, 3 rebounds. So he's a key player. He's a solid player, but do I think he's going to make like a big time impact? Absolutely not. But one of the players the Pacers did get, and Pacers fans rejoice at this, George Hill, which actually is pretty exciting. I'm not even a Pacers fan, but that's a huge homecoming from them. But I want to ask you, Charles, this Pacers team, they're pretty young. They're pretty much a young, core, solid team. But George Hill, 15-year vet, how does he kind of add up into this Pacers lineup? Does he see a lot of minutes this season?
I don't really think he's going to play too much. I think he's going to come off the bench more as that vet, that playmaker that will kind of be able to help some of the young guys learn their role, especially someone like Andrew Nembhard coming right out of college. Just teach them how to be a better playmaker, more just learn the NBA as a whole. So I think that George Hill will be more of just that glue guy, kind of like Udonis has him.
All right, well, I guess we're going to see how this second half of the season turns out. So now let's go into the NBA trade deadline itself. So many happened. I cannot even tell you how much. You actually calculated 15 on trade line day. So we can literally analyze all of them, but we're going to choose our winners and our losers of the trade deadline. So let's start with you, Charles. Who do you have?
My personal winner was the LA Lakers. A lot of people were really high because the Suns obviously got Kevin Durant, the Mavericks got Kyrie, but the Lakers, they made the moves where it mattered. The biggest issue for the Lakers has been availability this year, with Anthony Davis being out, and LeBron James is obviously starting to hit that end point of his career. They haven't really had consistency with health, and them picking up players in those positions that they've been missing was very good for me. But to go on the other end of that was the losers is the Jazz. I feel for them, they gave a bunch of youth that they got from the Rudy Gobert trade, giving away Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt, but traded away, got Russell Westbrook, who they're just going to buy out, and then a first-round pick in 2027. It just didn't make much sense to me.
Right. Now going on to my winners and losers of the same trade, as we can see on the screen behind me. My winners, hands down, the Suns. I think that was the biggest blockbuster trade of this whole entire deadline. I mean, they got Kevin Durant, one of the best players in this entire league. And I got to go with the losers. I got to go with Brooklyn Nets. They lost Durant and now Kyrie Irving. On that note, that's it for NBA. But when we return, Nathaniel and Caden will wrap things up here on Last Call.
Welcome back to Last Call. One final segment for you, and it's talking about Purdue and IU. IU, let's start with them. A great win for the Hoosiers, and man, they are just continuing to position themselves well. Let's take a look at this game that they had against Michigan. I mean, 62-61 win against a good team. They're up to 14th in the AP poll. They are looking good, and Trace Jackson-Davis is the start of it.
No, him and Jalen Hood-Schifino, they're really becoming a premier duo in all of college basketball. And like you said, they are on a roll. Up to 14. Hey, some think they should be higher, and I think they have a case for it.
Yeah, I agree. 14 is kind of low in my book. Some great wins are stringing together, obviously, with number one Purdue being right there a week ago. It's been an impressive little stretch of basketball for Indiana, and, you know, they're one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten right now.
They play as a team, right? And they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
Fun to watch. Lob City with Trace Jackson, and you see here more than just a scorer distributor, too. I mean, this team has an energy to it. They play together, and they're so fun.
And it was impressive. This game without Race Thompson, obviously still waiting on Xavier Johnson to come back. They were a little short-handed, and they just keep winning. I mean, once they get to fully healthy and we get towards March, this is going to be a fun team to watch in that field of 68.
Especially when they get it home. And when these guys get going, they're like a freight train. They're one of those teams when momentum's on their side, they are very, very hard to stop. And I think they're getting hot at the right time here.
Look at this defensive play, though. I mean, come on. You get a bucket here, the game's over. Instead, IU keeps them from getting a good look. They win the game 62-61. You see the last shot. It was just an impressive little stretch of basketball. IU, they're the real deal. This was in Ann Arbor, too, so good for them, good for IU. They're going to continue to move up the ranks. It's going to set up for another great game in Mackey here in a couple weeks, and I cannot wait for it. Speaking of Mackey Arena, there was a Purdue game. They weren't at Mackey. They were a little bit on the road up in Chicago, played Northwestern. This is not the game that we thought we would see. They ended up losing it 68-64, but for Purdue, I mean, they moved down to third in the AP poll, just kind of a struggle. Zach Edey didn't have quite the dominant game, and you know, they had to lead. They just kind of felt like they were on cruise control most of the second half, and it cost them at the end.
And you got to think Zach Edey, he's doing all he can do. I mean, 24-8, that's a below average game for him, and that's crazy to think about. I mean, and the thing about Purdue is they need to get him some help. Only one other guy in double figures just isn't going to cut it for the Boilermakers.
See, they've got some good players, especially these freshmen. You know, Braden Smith, some of these guys that they have around him. Fletcher Lawyer's been great, but if they have poor games, you know, then it goes all downhill. And I mean, it's just you want to see more from these guys because it's just not always what you want. I mean, Braden Smith had 10 points. He was our only other player in double figures.
Some of that falls on Painter, though, don't you think? I feel like there's just a way that you have to get other guys involved, have to show the other team different looks. I mean, give them something other than Zach Edey to game plan for.
A great show today. Purdue loses, IU wins, UINDY gets some wins. It's been a great show, and you know, it's been a lot of fun, Caden, chopping up with you. How about that Super Bowl? Man, pretty happy with that.
Can't ask for more.
Yeah, that is the show for Last Call. We had a lot of fun talking with Giselle Valentine, with Chuck Foster, with Sam Gailey. Thanks to all of our guests. Can't wait next week, Monday on Last Call.